DiGiGrid, and we're here at ESV TV looking at some of the software options with the DiGiGrid hardware. There are two things we're going to look at now. The first is Soundgrid Studio, and we've changed this time. We're going to look at it with a native connected box. So we have our DiGiGrid iOS connected at the moment. So we're going to have a quick look at the controls for that, and then we're going to switch into Pro Tools and look at the Studio Rack plugin and how we can control our offload of DSP from there really. So first thing I'm going to do is open up the Setup tab of Soundgrid Studio. So just a reminder, split into three sections. Our I/O section on the left-hand side, and this is where we have our iOS connected, our core audio driver in the middle, and our Soundgrid server, the DSP component that sits inside the iOS, is here in the servers column. If I open up the control panel for the iOS, let's just hide this so we can see it a bit clearer. This is our software interface for controlling our mic amps and all the bits within the iOS. It's the same for the iOX and the IOC, just a different number of inputs and outputs. So the input section is here, and we can select any of our given inputs and it will highlight the input on the picture of the back panel, which is pretty cool. And on the left hand side here we have our phantom control. So we have an indicator to show that the phantom power's on, the +48. And then we have our gain stage, which is done in like large clicks of 7.5 dB steps, and then a fine trim section in between. So it gives us a load of control between our sort of 0 and +60 gain range of each of those individual inputs. On the output side, we have a 10 dB pad, so it gives us a bit of extra headroom on the output. And on the inputs, the AES or SP-diff switch is here, and then we have a sample rate conversion on and off function. So that's all the hardware controls that we have. We get to choose at what level the clip indicator on the front panel lights up. So to give ourselves a bit of headroom really, we have it set as -3 dB is the clip. But if you really want to do it, you can take that up to -2, -1, or even 0. So a lot of control over what you see on the front panel there. And again, here we have the level indicators for our headphone feeds. 2 headphones on the iOS, so we get 2 little meter controls as to what we're sending. So each of the hardware boxes has its own control panel, allowing you to control all the functions. So let's close that down. And let's flip into Pro Tools. Now I just have a basic Pro Tools session here, and all I've done in the playback engine is select wavez SoundGrid. So this is going to tell Pro Tools this is how we're going to communicate with our hardware, and that allows us to control some of the DSP functions. I've made 8 channels, and on this first channel I'm going to insert from wavez audio down here, all the way down the list here, the Studio Rack plugin. So this is essentially like a plug-in shell, and it allows us to chain together up to 8 SoundGrid or wavez plugins. And this plugin actually runs natively or within our DSP engine in the iOS. Even if you don't own one of our DSP engines, you can still use this plugin and start to get used to this whole idea of chaining plugins together. It's a really cool function, and what's really good is you can build a chain in Pro Tools, for example, quit Pro Tools, open Logic, and exactly the same plugin chains are available. You don't have to copy any preset files or move anything. Those shared libraries of all your presets exist for every DAW that uses Studio Rack. So it really does sort of enable you to build plugin chains that move really seamlessly between Pro Tools and Logic and Nuendo and Cubase and any DAW that you might use this in. Here in Pro Tools, I'm just going to add in a couple of plugins to this plugin chain. So we have 8 plugin slots. So let's just bring in, I don't know, Q1, nice and simple. And let's bring in maybe an L1. So here we have, you can see a chain of 2 plugins. I can reorder them by dragging them in the chain up and down, so it changes the processing order of the plugins. Let's just do that again, there we go. And so we have a lot of control over how we're going to process this channel of audio. But what's really cool is up here, we can choose where this audio is processed. Now, normally on a native plugin, it's your host computer, the Mac or the PC's processor that does the plugin processing. But using this plugin, we can offload that processing. So at the moment it says local CPU. If I switch it to SoundGrid SG, it takes the exact same processing chain, and you don't see any change here, but now all of that processing happens on our iOS box. You haven't actually do anything or patch anything or open a new window or another application. That's it. You've moved that piece of processing from Pro Tools into the iOS. If I load up a chain of plugins that I threw together here earlier, got a C6, an SSL, an Exciter, and a couple of their Waves one knob series. At the moment we're processing this on the SoundGrid server, and you can see here the system usage on the PC actually is really low. It says 1% at the moment. If I take this one chain of plugin and switch it to local mode, okay, we're now our CPU is running closer to 10%. So that's one channel with a handful of plugins, and we've offloaded a huge amount of processing from our local machine onto our iOS. Now imagine that across a big mix where you've got lots of channels with lots of plugins going on. Actually, the ability to run several hundred plugins on your iOS is really going to relieve the pressure of your local machine. So this ability to reallocate your processing between, you know, a traditional native plugin and a SoundGrid plugin is really handy and really cool. And of course the other benefit is if you're running on a laptop and you pick your laptop up and walk away, when you open your Pro Tools session, all right, the server's not connected, but all of those plugins will still run natively. You haven't lost, as you might with other systems, you haven't lost the ability to process those plugins. So this Studio App plugin is a really cool, easy way of building plugin chains and enabling you to manage your DSP inside your iOS. So if you want to try an iOS, either rent one or buy one or get some more information, eastwoodsoundandvision.com. Check out DiGiGrid.